All right, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. This is Real Estate Uncensored. I have some amazing human beings sharing the stage with me today. As always, we have Mr. Nick Sackers with Mr. Gene Volpe. I'll bring them in a second. And I have Mr. Tim Stafford, guys. He has a PhD in social media. Met Tim a number of years ago. He was creating and working on some insanely awesome stuff on the educational side, which is academic, which is then going to ultimately filter down to us peons. But right now, he's going to bring the curtain back and show us the future of our lives with ChatGPT, social media, and AI. It's going to be an amazing show. Before we bring this man in, who, by the way, and I am not kidding you, seriously, get a pen and paper out. This is going to be a show you're going to take some notes. So he also has a book he's going to talk about at the end. And also, for everyone who stays at the end, we have a free prompt that, when used correctly, is going to blow your mind. So you have to stay to the end for that. So, Gene, how are you? The evil bald ninja is
Craig
here.
McDaniel, I am so impressed right now. It's only taken you 14 years to do something like that. Wait, you just put that carrot out there for everybody and said, you have to listen to this bullshit for the next 30 minutes in order to get a free prompt. Kudos, my guy. That was actually one of the best ones you've done. That was awesome.
That is. I felt it.
Thank you.
I felt it. I think I'll stay through the whole show now. I wasn't sure.
And thank you guys for showing up. Tim's book's coming out this year, and we're gone. Peace out, ninjas.
Yeah.
Nick Sackers, the ever-shrinking man. What's going on, brother? How are you?
I got ChatGPT open in my other window. Alexa's listening to us right now. We're good. I will tell you, there's a new pet peeve of mine.
Uh-oh.
And just as much as Gene built you up, I'm going to tear you down.
Oh,
Because
damn, brutal.
In the world that we live in right now, if you say Chat GTP,
GPT, I'm
I'm
dyslexic,
immediately
motherfucker.
dismissing you out of the conversation.
Hey, you know
Wait,
what?
did he do that? I totally missed it.
He said it.
He did.
There's so many people now that
guys.
say GTP.
Now you're just picking on a minority class of disabled people because I'm dyslexic, motherfuckers. Okay. Seriously, I have the
I'm
medical
just
transcripts to prove it.
kidding. Everybody
No,
says
you're not. You hurt my
GTP.
feelings, and now I'm in a place where I'm vulnerable, and I feel so emotionally challenged. I can't do the show anymore.
But speaking of three letters, I feel much
It's gonna be
smarter
okay,
that
Greg.
we're on this
It's
call
gonna
with
be
a
all right.
PhD.
Thanks,
So
Tim.
let's let
Yeah.
him take over the conversation and
Yes,
drop the knowledge for us.
Well,
God.
whatever.
I got the angel and the demon on my shoulder today. Thank you, guys. Tim, without ado, welcome to the show, my friend. Again, you're a third-time veteran of the show.
I know. You keep asking me back, so I figured I didn't screw it up too bad the last time. So that's good. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
It's our pleasure, man. So tell us a little bit about you. You and I met. What was it? Foursquare? What was the damn name of that show?
Yeah, what was that? It was
It was a. We could jump in and out.
Frankly
of each other's
Talk
different rooms.
or
Yeah.
something. It was some stupid. It was yeah. And I don't know. I just decided I was gonna say something because you were on there live, and then we got talking. You and Matt. I think Matt was on it too, right? Wasn't
I
Matt
think
on
he
there?
was at that time. Yeah.
And then I don't know. Then you said, "Why don't you come on the show?" I don't remember. Maybe you said dial in. Oh, that's what it was. We had to dial in those days. Remember? So
Oh, I
then you
remember those
dialed
days.
in, and then I talked for a minute, and I don't know. It was weird.
Who's Matt? Is Matt another guest that was on the show at one point?
He passed away. We don't talk about him.
Okay.
You know,
I'm sorry.
No, Matt's very much alive. He's not actually dead.
Oh,
Dude, are you kidding me right now?
man.
It's funny.
No.
No, it's not.
Okay, let's get back to the fucking point of the show. Okay. God damn fucking drunk monkeys in a rainstorm. All right. So chat AI.
There you go.
Nick, now made me all self-conscious.
I was like, it's
So, let's break it down with Tim. Tim, tell us a little bit about the evolution of chat and where it is now, what we all know as of 6/14/2023, and where you see it going and kind of what you're building off right now, because a lot of this stuff is going to blow our minds. And I am sitting here waiting to literally learn. I really am thankful for this. So let's go.
What? Sure. Well, I think probably the best thing for me to do is kind of tell you
Oops, shit.
where wow, something's happening.
That would be my fault.
Oh, sorry. Let the audience kind of know where I sit in this, because I'm not necessarily a coder. At the chat GPT level, there's a lot of really smart people doing all that. but I am at the university. I'm at St. Thomas University. I am the director of academic affairs that have anything to do with online learning. So I've been doing it for quite some time. I'm very involved in a lot of things like engagement and social media and things that are involved in people being coming in and out of social media for engagement and coursework. And I've done a lot of research when it comes to social media. So that's how kind of Greg and I got connected, was that I was doing a huge amount of research in social media with regard to education and those connectors. And so somehow I got connected to being an expert on social media, which to some degree I am, but with certain connections and how the analysis happens and how social media works. And well, and so as a part of this in education, one of the things that happens in education is when a new thing like this shows up, education tends to run away from it. And my career I've been spent running toward those things because I figure there's, for a very short window, opportunity until everybody else figures out that, oh, we shouldn't have run away, and then they come running back, and then there's all this saturation, and hopefully, by that point you're considered one of the people that knows what you're talking about, and so then you're doing, you can then be helpful as everybody comes back and tries to implement things. So what's happening right now is that ChatGPT has become the bane of education's existence because people are just writing their papers on it, which is not a very good way to use ChatGPT because it's not very elegant for that. But it seems like it's elegant, but I would say that it's artificially arrogant, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. But the thing about it is that there is something about ChatGPT that I think your listeners need to understand that's going to change the face of anybody who's doing business, anybody who's doing anything that has to do with service bases or any kind of business, really. And coders have known this for a long time. They've been using these tools for a very long time. We're way behind them. They're using it to spin up code for all kinds of things. It's very, very knowledgeable. And so one of the things I think that's important for people to know is the reason why it's called ChatGPT is because the interface is a chatting interface. And so if you go on to ChatGPT, for instance, and you say, write me a social media prompt about selling a house, it will give you that, but it will not be nearly as elegant or as customized as if you have a conversation with it back and forth, to where you're prompting it, right? We're calling it prompting. So one prompt is, I might say, um, I want you to write me something, and then it spits something out, and then I tell it if I like it or not and what it needs to change, and then it spits something new out, and then I tell it what I like it or not, and we go back and forth like that. And so it creates this funnel effect, which we start at the top of the funnel, and it's just kind of not elegant, it's kind of loose, and as we funnel it through, we get this much more specific customized work that's actually very useful, and it can be SEO friendly, and it can be all these things that we need it to be. And the problem but the problem is, inside of the funnel, the human has to be there. Man, woman in the middle have to be there to provide the information that they need in order for the chat engine to understand how to relate the information it already got. Because remember, everything that's going on in the chat, it remembers what it just said. So it's holding on to that information, and then it's pulling down. So this one chat session can be very long, for a very long time. And you can start to see that as you do that, as you engineer these prompts, that's what officially it's called, as you engineer a prompt, and then as you chain the prompts together, i.e. prompt chaining, you get very customized, accurate, very granular information. And that's very interesting. And so what we're working on right now is how do we do that in a way that people can use it in a way that the information they're going to get out of it can direct a conversation itself with people, and it can file that down. So that's kind of where I'm using it right now, and where this is going to be very valuable. There are several places it's going to be very valuable, but one of the immediate ways it would be valuable to anybody owning a business, realtor or otherwise, is if you know how to chat with the GPT engines, then it will save you a lot of time in doing things that typically people have trouble doing. Like, I'll give you a good example. Next week, I'm going to be speaking at a high school graduation, and so I had to present a specific award. So I took all of the pieces of the specific award that I had to do. I put it in the ChatGPT, and then I told it how I wanted the information to be put out, and it spit something out. And I had 2 or 3 conversations with it, and it spit it out. And so then I took that, and then I made some edits to it, made sure that everything was correct, and I put that aside. What normally might have taken me, I don't know, a half hour, took me, 12 minutes. I get some of my time back because it's writing in all of the other words that I don't have to write. I just need the ideas to be there, and I need to be the person that's in the mix, making sure that everything's accurate. And so it's going to change the way that people put time to things. It's going to change the way that we manage projects. It's going to change the way we do administrative tasks. It's got a lot of interesting things for it. But right now, you really have to understand how to work with the chat interface in order to do that. And so we're at the university, we're doing a fair amount of R&D, research and development on how do we make that so that it is more user friendly. Now, I know ChatGPT, if you use it, it seems user friendly. But my point, what we're trying to do is, how can we give it a very specific usage, and how can we then, by doing that, we've already taken some of that the conversation away already. So now it's even easier for the user. They just put in some information based on what this tool is going to do, and they already know that, and it just pops out information. So, and we're also using multiple language models, and that's a little bit more technical. And so, but just the way that if you think of the ChatGPT engine as being like an encyclopedia, if we have one set of encyclopedias worth of information, and then we have 1,000 encyclopedia sets worth of information, and then if we have, so let's say there are 1,000 different ones, and we chain all of those together, that's a lot more information to pull from to be accurate than if we just had one. That's the simplest way I can explain it. So, but we're talking actually about, like millions of encyclopedias of information. But the idea is that we want to do that. So the problem is, what's going to happen is that we want to make sure that when people are using it, that they understand how to use it correctly, so that what Tony just said is right. Although the problem with this is something that somebody comes up with a lot. It will creative write. There are some creative writing and some other things that it does. But one of the interesting things about this argument is that there's so much information that's pulling from that it is possible. It is possible that if we only write using ChatGPT, or if we only use a GPT engine to write information that then we turn around and publish on the internet, there is the threat that over a certain amount of time, which no one can seem to tell any of us what that would be, what that kind of time would be, but that it would ultimately flatline it, that then it would just be pulling on itself. But
if you married your own sister, right? It's not
exactly right.
No.
What?
Soon, right? It's like the trunk. The trunk is just single trunk, no branches. But I think that the thing is, though, is that what I'm describing to you and how we're trying to help train people about prompt engineering and about prompt chaining is there's still authentically knowledge. There's information there that's authentically knowable and unique and innovative that could be then republished and added to the general ethos of what's out on the internet, the general knowledge base. I think that there is a way to do that. And to be honest with you, where that threat comes from is if somebody just says, write me a blog post about botany, and it just writes something and they just publish that. Yes, that's going to happen, but none of that stuff is very elegant, and it's not referenced, and it's not, it doesn't follow a lot of the academic things that we would be looking for in certain things. But for the average person writing a blog post about a listing, like, if you wanted to, or if you were trying to write blog posts about how to prepare a house to sell or something like that, there is so much unique information out there that even if you pulled in 1 million blog posts at this point that basically said the same thing and posted them on the internet for yourself, you still aren't adding enough information that it's going to start to make everything vanilla, because the information is similar with changes depending on geography or whatever. You would still see those changes occur because a person in the middle is adding relevant data to what they're publishing.
Let me ask you a question. Could you write a prompt? And it's just coming into my brain again. Shoot me down. I could be totally off my rocker. I don't think I am, but let's say I want to get more visibility for my local town, right? So I live in a city called Walnut Creek, California. So I'm like, gosh, chat, write me a post that of why the best things to, why Walnut Creek is the best place to live, with 5 notable geographic location, geolocations, and 5 testimonials for people why they like to move here. I mean, I'm assuming, because I did the 5 notable places and 5 notable people in a prompt, but I didn't do like quotes from people. Can you do that yet? Can you pull it in, like real quotes from people from free sources out there and say, look, Walnut Creek is the best place because my kids went to the best preschool ever and blah 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 or whatever?
Yeah, it just depends on what. So there's a couple of different things. It depends on what the GPT engine's been trained on, because there's a lie out there. I shouldn't say it's a lie. That's not true. That's not true. There's misinformation. There's a misinformation out there. The misinformation is that ChatGPT has been pointed to the whole internet. That is not true. ChatGPT has not been pointed to the whole internet. Like I happen to know for a fact that it only points to about 60% of Reddit posts, as an example.
Oh, wow.
It only points to. It doesn't point to every newspaper. I'm getting to my point here about what you're saying. It doesn't necessarily point to every newspaper, because it doesn't. The people who are putting these language models together, they're constantly retraining the engine. So the thing about it is that it's constantly growing. So part of it is when you ask the question, it depends on the town. If I said, what are the 10 best things to do in Los Angeles, then that's a good question. I'll answer that too. So if I say, what are the 10 best things to do in Los Angeles, it's probably going to pull something pretty generic. I'll probably say something that it would be pretty well known. If you ask, what are the 10 best things to do in your particular town, if that stuff is a part of the training of the GPT, then it's probably going to pull things. But you'll start to notice that's why it's important that you start to have the chat, because if you ask it something and it comes back and you tell it, okay, that's good. By the way, you always want to qualify whatever you're saying to the chat. So like, if you say, okay, that's good. Now also talk about what you can do in these mountains, or what can you do, what are things, because what you're trying to do is you're actually, by chatting with it, you're training the GPT model. Let me give you an example. So Tony just asked about copyrights, or about citations. Okay. So we're having a conversation. We're having a chat right now, and we're talking about GPT engines, and we're talking about how they would know about local places. In the middle of that, somebody chats in, how about a citation? What about citations? And so now all of a sudden we're about to shift. Oh, okay, we'll talk about that. That's exactly the same thing that you're doing when you're training a GPT. You're basically saying, okay, but look, I also want you to have this as a part of what you do. And then if you have a pamphlet, for instance, like let's say you had an electronic pamphlet about your city.
I do have one.
You put that in to read. You tell it to read this. Now it's part of that. Now it's part of your conversation. It can be a part of what you read. Of what it knows right now. You just trained it right now. Now it may not be there for the next person to go in and use, but anything that you can tell it can be immediately a part of the information, plus everything else it knows.
Let me ask you a question. You said train the GPT. Shut up, Gene and Nick. I swear to fucking God, I'm gonna cancel you off the show right now. Fucking now, if you say a damn thing. But if you train chat, Does Tim have one? Does Gene have one? Does Nick have one? Do I have one? Or is it all one collect? Is it one portal for each,
Yeah.
quote unquote, one portal, and then it goes into a collective hive mind where it disseminates and calculates and just disseminates the information out to anybody who puts in the right
Yeah.
prompts?
So yeah, so it's a both and. So what happens is you have one that exists and it's being trained by coders and programmers, and
Like
they're
the
constantly
mothership,
working
right?
on it. Right. Yeah. It's like OpenAI. OpenAI is a group of folks that are training artificial intelligence engines to know certain information, and they have a protocol by which they choose that information, and that's open to all of us. So if you go on to OpenAI, to ChatGPT, and you're working with that and you don't give it any information, you're just asking it, and you're asking it for the million encyclopedias or whatever it is of whatever it's being trained on and whatever it was trained on last, which right now is about 2 years old. So right now the it only knows current information up to about 2 years ago. But so when I open a chat window for ChatGPT, okay, that is a single, it's a single session for me.
Thread. Think about it as a
It's
thread.
right.
Single
It's like a
thread,
thread.
right?
So whatever I introduce to it at that moment in that thread is now a part of the conversation of everything it knows, including everything it knows.
Okay, hold on.
But
So
once I get out of it, it's gone because it hasn't been added
oh,
to the general. See what I mean?
okay. So
So
what if I went in and I was able to digitize, have have an AI, have a VA, AI VAs, we're talking slang here. So a virtual assistant, off,
right.
out of country or in country, doesn't matter. Have them as part of their job to go out and grab every friggin' article about real estate in my area, my state, my county, my cities I work in, copy, paste, tell GPT to read it, and then that will go into my thread, so that then if myself or my virtual assistant says, hey, write me a blah blah blah, yeah, about Yakety Schmack Town, but you've uploaded all the most current info. Oh, dude, it's an up and coming place. Only credit cards, no cash. It's only that's why they're so Yakety Schmack.
Yeah.
But I mean, you could teach it on that level, so that your team members or virtual assistants could be loading like every piece of real estate data or marketing pieces or past sales or anything you want into your thread, so that it would be more responsive and intuitive for your needs. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, you're right, but this becomes extremely clunky. And this is one of the reasons why what I'm working
Oh.
on at the university is important, because what we're trying to do right now is figure out a way. So, like, let's say for the university, this is just an example. We have information, right? We have all the website information, all the program information, all the catalogs from 20 years. We have all this stuff, right? What if I want all of that information to be a part of the conversation so that I can create a GPT engine that if somebody's interested in the university, they can come and they can ask questions about the university and they can answer with accuracy, because I'm going to train it on all the information of the university. Well, for somebody to go into ChatGPT and then copy and paste that every time that somebody comes onto a session, it's a very laborious and it's very clunky. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to make it so that can we use a coding language like Python as an example to hold that information in a repository somewhere, so that then every time that somebody comes and asks a question, it automatically pulls all that information in. It just pulls it in, and now it's a part of the conversation, just because we trained it to also link all of the AI engine stuff together with the St. Thomas University stuff we have. We're linking the language models together. We're chaining them together. And so then when it pulls it, and we can tell it, by the way, to give preference to what's in the STU stuff, because that's what we're using it for if we want to. And so we can, and there's all of these things. It's pretty technical, but there's all of these switches and services in the back end when you're using ChatGPT as an engine, that you can tell it how much accuracy you want from what engine. There's all these things, and these guys are programming this stuff so that we can make these really accurate machines that pull from really accurate databases that can include whatever we give it. So the answer to your question is yes, but you wouldn't want to use ChatGPT that way, because what you would find yourself doing is taking a half hour to load everything up every time and then redo it. And the other, I did a lot of experimenting early on with this, where when you open up a chat session on ChatGPT, you can keep it open forever. It'll store it, you know. So I would have it read information. I would keep it open forever, and I would just keep asking it. You know, I'd keep having multiple conversations over multiple days. And what happens is the further you get away from the information, the more it's like it starts to forget. They call it hallucinating. It starts to get away from it, and it doesn't always remember because now it's trying to keep the old and the new together, and it doesn't. So you have to you have to re-enter it again. So what we're trying to do is figure out a way to have that part of the process always working for regular use. There's a lot of this going on in programming. This is very if you know coders out there, they're already doing this. We're trying to figure out a way for the average person, like a realtor, to have a tool that they could put information and they could upload information into it, and that would keep a repository of that information that then they could then, like for you could then start doing things that would be using that information. We're trying to figure out a way to realistically do that isn't going to cost $1 million, because the problem is it does cost money. Right now, all of you are using ChatGPT and it's not costing you anything unless you're like me and I paid the $20 a month for GPT-4. But if you're not paying for it, it feels like, man, this is great. It's a gold mine. But if you're going to program with it, there are costs depending on how elegant an engine you're using, and it can spin up costs pretty fast. So we're trying to figure out a way to make it regular person friendly in so many ways, and marketable.
Let me ask you a question. So let's say a real estate agent. Well, I actually have a couple of questions here. Let's say a real estate agent that's newer in the business, you know, somewhat tech savvy, right? They know how to turn a computer on. What would be a downfall, and what would be something they should look for if they were to go out and look for a prompt engineer for their team, their brokerage, their business, whatever it's going to be? What are some red flags you're seeing right now of like, okay, that's bullshit, the guy's scamming you or gal's scamming you, or like that's a legit, you know, programmer, you know, to help you, you know, put some money back into the economy while you can do your best is listening and selling and, you know, networking with folks while your visibility gets larger and larger and larger and larger and snowballs. How would you advise someone to look for a programmer?
Yeah, well, now, so prompt engineer, it's a new world, you know. A lot of them are coders right now. They have a coding side. I think you're going to see more and more folks like myself who are getting into this industry. We're becoming much more associated with the prompt side, the prompt engineering side, the way that it's what I would call the information side, how we deal with information, how we understand information. So like I told you in the beginning, I'm not a coder, so I have coders that I work with, but I do the engineering of the prompts. The reason I'm saying that as part of my answer to your question is because and then the order by which the prompt chains, I think that's really important. There's a lot to that. So if you're going to go out and find somebody to do this for you, what you want to do is, number one, you want to make sure that they can articulate for you fairly significantly how the engines work. They need to understand the very basic. You know, they can't give you a bunch of baloney. They've got to know how it works. And one of the things that's critical to everyone understanding how OpenAI works, how the ChatGPT, chat is just the interface. So the GPT engines, how they work, how the learning language models work, is that their algorithm is set up. So they're doing math all the time, and the math is, what is the most probable next word? That's the math. That's the magic. It's not thinking. It's not thinking. It's saying, so if I say the New York Times is a, answer, you know, fill in the blank, that, you know, the New York Times is a, right?
Newspaper.
And then it's going to say 99% of the time it's going to say newspaper, because that's what's out there. It's the next most probable answer. But if you run it a million times, maybe once in a million times, it's going to say something different, because maybe there's somebody out there that had an op-ed that said that it was a piece of garbage. So then it might, instead of getting newspaper, it gets peace. And then because it got peace, now the next most probable word is of. You see what I mean? It's only just doing the math. And so, but if I feed it information, so if I take somebody who wrote a piece that hates the New York Times, and I feed it that information and then ask it the question, the next most probable word is going to be different because now it's running off of a piece of information. People have to, if you're going to do prompt engineering, you have to understand how that works. You have to understand that what the thing is doing and then what my role is in that. My role is to be the thinker. My role is not for it to be the thinker. My role is to be the thinker. And then I have to be able to put my thoughts together like this. So for instance, if I were going to interview somebody to do that for a real estate firm, I would say, write me a prompt that would give me, that would give me social media, SEO driven social media posts for these different platforms based on this, like based on the fact that it's 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, and then it's 2,500 square feet. You'd give them information and see what they do. It should be a logical order of prompts, but it's not logical based on the information. It's logical based on what would be the next logical question. And then from the next logical question, when you put that into the ChatGPT, here's what I would do. If it were me, I would have them write that and then I would do it. So I would take those prompts as their interview and I would stick it into ChatGPT and see what it produced. If it produces pretty elegant stuff, like, okay, this person obviously knows what they're doing. I mean, it could be better. It doesn't have to be perfect, but if it produces stuff that's kind of generic, well, then maybe they don't know what they're doing because maybe they put it in the wrong order. Maybe they didn't put the right information. Maybe they didn't know they didn't know the right terminology to use with the ChatGPT. There's a lot that you have to know, and it's well worth paying somebody to be able to do this for you. If they know how to chain prompts together in a certain way to get the information that you want, but you got to be able to start at the end and work your way back to engineer the prompts. And that's what a lot of people can't do. So that would be the best advice I would have in an industry that literally is still connected to the umbilical cord. Everybody, we don't even know what this thing is yet. I mean, this is so new to the non-coding world, but it is really exciting to be a part of it. And I think it's going to be a game changer for sure. And so that's really important. I do want to just go back for just a second. And so given that I said what I just said about how the algorithm works, that it's the next most probable word. Here's the problem with ChatGPT and citations, okay? Because I know somebody asked about this earlier and I want to make sure I don't forget it. The problem with ChatGPT and citations is that if you ask it to do citations, it will give you citations, okay? It will. And I teach educators, I teach virtual instructors every single week of my life, and I tell them, if you don't check your citations, you're an idiot. Because ChatGPT has this incredible superpower that no one really understands yet. And that is that it is incredibly artificially arrogant. It will just tell you stuff. It tells you stuff like it's the right thing, right? It's just going to say, so I have literally had it. So I've asked it for citations is where you really see it. If you ask it to provide citations, what it does is it'll give you a title that could very well exist in the world. It could, because it's just the right number together. If it gets the right letters together, right words together, then it could show you a journal that actually exists. And it could show you an issue number and a number that does exist and a page numbers that exist. But that actual site does not exist at all. It's completely made up. And it happens we're at the university, we're doing a lot of work on this, and it's about 90% of the time it's wrong. 10% of the time it just happens to hit right. And usually it's because of a unique subject or a unique journal that doesn't have very many articles or something like that. And the OpenAI is pointed to all of the educational work. So it can get it right, but it doesn't get it right very often. And so what's happening right now is on ChatGPT 4, which is the newest version, now there's the ability for people to write plugins. And one of the plugins that people are writing right now is for sourcing, is for that kind of sourcing. And it does work a lot better, but it still isn't right all the time. And it's because, remember, the algorithm is just guessing the next most probable word. It doesn't actually know. It's not like it's going out there and it's reading all this data and it's coming back and telling you something. It's not. It's just literally going to the next word. So it's not very
unless
good
you
for
train
that,
on top of it.
Unless you train on top of it. Right. Unless
Right.
you train on top of it. So like
That's
for me,
the future. That's really the future.
That is the future. And one of the plugins that's really important that's being developed right now that's really, really radical is there's a PDF reader. And once that actually is really big, once that happens, then what we're going to be able to do is use that plugin to read PDFs and then train it on the PDFs. It's a total training module. And then we could actually write it. But see, at that point in academics, we're asking, well, what's the real work of academics? Well, it's research. So then we're going to have conversations about what's writing, what's not, and all that. That's going to come. But what's happening right now is that training the AI is the next big piece. How does the average person train the AI? And right now it's in quotes and just getting information in. But these plugins are going to offer us new ways to train the AI locally, and that's going to be really big. So you're exactly right. That's exactly what's happening. And so we're trying to be on the bleeding edge of this, but it's hard because it's literally being invented it changes all the time. So we're just constantly working on it.
Dude, I love that. So when it comes training on top of it, Nick, can you go a little bit deeper on that, please?
I got so many things. I mean,
I know
yeah.
you do.
So, okay, so a couple things that we're doing at likely.ai and I'm doing personally. So I want to address the first thing, which is if you heard, is it Tim or Timothy? Am I going to offend you if I call you Tim?
Well, everybody calls me Tim, but you can call me Timothy. It doesn't matter. But everybody calls me Tim. So.
All right. So Timothy suggested that we have strings of conversations or threads of conversations, right? And I think this goes back to our general headline reading population, first page of Google, how we act in general. So if you've had conversations with ChatGPT and you've heard about it and you're like, man, this is great. I'm going to have GPT write a blog post because I saw somebody talk about it on a podcast. And you go into ChatGPT and you say, write me a blog post, and it spits out something, and you go, that wasn't very good. This whole thing's a bunch of hype. You're not having a conversation. You're not actually training it and telling it exactly what you want, which is the string or thread of communication that Timothy was talking about. I've made jokes about this before, that I open up new threads with ChatGPT every day and say good morning. That I'm actively having conversations with GPT and telling it how my day's going. What am I working on for this day in particular is important. So that's like the difference between clicking on the first result of Google. That's like giving GPT one prompt versus when you're doing research, going to the fifth, fourth, the 10th page of Google to try to do some research. That's having a conversation. That's going down the rabbit hole and actually training it or giving it a little bit more depth of knowledge, right? So all of this sounds really complicated. And what Timothy was talking about, all the back end stuff that you guys don't know that goes into this, and having databases, and what I believe and what Timothy believes, and us at Likely are saying the same thing, is GPT is cool as a whole, but it does have hallucinations, and it does have this wide depth of knowledge that we don't necessarily need in these one-on-one conversations. So the key is building on top of these models with your own model, which is exactly what we do at likely.ai for real estate agents. So we take this ChatGPT model, this large language model, and then we put our models right on top of that are specifically designed for the real estate agent. So all you have to do is click a couple buttons in a template and it spits out a perfect response for you, right? So that's on the real estate side. Likely.ai is a real estate built on top of a large language model, and they have their own data scientists, and they do this specifically. So that's what you're going to see, right? Because yes, you can log into HubSpot and there's a GPT, and you can log into Bing and there's a GPT, but it's not specific to what you want right now. And that's the takeoff point. That's the leverage point. So that's where likely.ai fits in all of this right now for real estate, is we're building the real estate model on top of these large language models so that it has a hyper-specific, really good result for you. I'll tell you, if you want some good prompting, go to likely.ai/playbooks. This isn't a promo, even though it is a promo, because if you're a real estate agent and you're listening to like this stuff and Timothy talk and you're like, what the fuck? Just let Likely do it for you. Like, that's all I'm going to say. Second thing, when it comes to having databases on top of things. So when Timothy was talking about loading up content for GPT to learn. And so like if you had a single thread and you're loading up the conversations and then it starts hallucinating towards the end because there's only a certain amount of tokens that can go back and forth in these systems, and tokens are words or letters, right? That can be pulled at one time. So what ends up happening, and this is what I do right now personally in my LeadMax system. So I partnered with a developer because right now, if you wanted to have a chat assistant, you can go to OpenAI and you can get the code and you can put on your website, and you can have ChatGPT on your website basically for free, or just by having access to GPT code, right? It's not going to do anything for your business. It's going to be just like opening up ChatGPT. If somebody says, "What hours are you open?" it's not going to know the answer because you haven't trained it, because it's a general code that has all of the knowledge. So what we did at LeadMax, which is what I've been promoting, you guys have seen me say text AI to this number or different things. We have a secondary database. So we have a primary large language model, which is ChatGPT. Any communication that happens, so a lead comes in, they text you from your Facebook Messenger, from your Instagram, from your Google Chat, from your web widget. We then take that question from the consumer. We then reference our database, which right now is a very basic Google spreadsheet, high tech, but that's what we're using as a database. And that database has all the most frequently asked questions for your business. So we have the depth of knowledge on how to respond to things with the probability of the next best word from GPT, but then it's going in smaller token size and instantly getting the next frequently asked question from our spreadsheet, so that you as the agent can be doing other tasks and somebody can ask your chat widget, when was the Sakis Group founded? How soon can I get into this house at 123 Main Street? And it comes up with really good responses because we've trained it on really good data on top of the large language model for chat. So we're seeing that right now. And this is the future of what you're going to see with AI, is the amount of leverage that you're going to have for these very specific tasks if you train it properly. And so I just wanted, I was on the edge of my seat thinking about that stuff as Timothy was talking. But right now, if you're a real estate agent, the best thing I can suggest for you to do is open up these threads and treat it like you're talking to an actual person, have a conversation, and go deeper than just one or two different, what we call prompts or questions, because it will help your end result. And then obviously download our likely.ai playbooks, because we tell you exactly what to say to GPT to get the best results specifically for real estate.
Yeah. I would just add, I think all of that is exactly, it's brilliant. It's perfect. What we do is we train people to use the word ROAM, ROAM. ROAM stands for tell the AI what role it's playing. So that's the R is what role. So a lot of times we'll say, I want you to be a virtual assistant.
Act as a virtual assistant.
Or I want you to act like this, or I want you to, I want you to act as a graduate assistant and help me grade some papers. And it goes, okay. And so then we, or whatever it is, we do that. Then the O is options. What are the options? Like for instance, are you uploading certain pieces what are the options for it to take? Are you just leaving it open to whatever open AI has, or are you giving it certain things to read, and then you want it to generate things based on certain outcomes? What are you have to tell it what the options are. You have to be specific about what you want. And then what adjectives you use are really important. Like, do you want something to be friendly? Like, what tone do you want it to use? What you can try it. And a lot of times you can get something and you can go, that's good. And remember, you always want to tell it. On ChatGPT, you can actually give it a thumbs up. It actually is better for the engine. But you can say, that's good, or that's excellent. Now rewrite it and do this, or now rewrite it and answer and add this to it, or now rewrite it. And so you're giving it, or give it this tone. And I've done that before. I've said, give it a friendly tone and write something. I go, well, that's a little bit too friendly. Okay. So less friendly, more professional. You can just constantly be talking to it. So there's the role, there's the options, there's the adjectives, and then there's the medium. What medium are we doing? Are we writing a blog? Are we writing a social media post? Are we writing
what's the output? How do you want it to be
what's the output?
Yeah.
I mean, what's the output? What are we trying to do? And when you put it into that kind of framework of Rome, right? And you answer all those questions, you're going to get much better chains. You're going to get much better prompts, and you're going to get much better output. But it takes a while to figure out. Sometimes to what See, they're all calling me by my first name fully. Now I can't remember. It's not Gene, because that's the other person. Nick. What Nick was saying is right, because the issue is that sometimes people will just put things in generically and get generically out. Well, that's what you asked for. If you put in
Yeah.
very specific things, you'll get very specific things out. And it is pretty wild what you can ask it. And sometimes you can ask it for things in a certain order. Like you could say, um, what are the top 10 reasons for this? And then what are the top 10 reasons for this? And what are the top 10 reasons for this? Now put all that together and ask another set of questions, and you get this answer out. You go, oh my gosh, that is unbelievable, because now what you've done is you've trained it. You've
Yeah.
trained it to take certain general informations and innovate that into a new thing. But realize what's happening here, you guys. You are inserting information. The human is involved. So the human has a new role. The human is training the AI. And I think that's what's really important, is this isn't a thing where it's just going to, pump out information. And Tony asked, can chat be trained with misinformation? Well, of course,
Yeah.
because the AI can be trained with whatever information you give it. But they do a pretty good job. OpenAI, there's been a lot of podcasts and things out there that you could listen to, that they've done a pretty good job of trying to keep the information as neutral as possible. It's not, if humans wrote it, there's bias, period. There's bias no matter who wrote it. So it's hard to train complete bias out of anything. But what they tried to do, they have tried to they've really tried to neutralize, for the lack of a better term, the information that's in the large language engines. But that's another reason why we chain them together, because a lot of times we can neutralize that by chaining certain informations together, putting certain informations together, even in a chat thread ourselves. We can undo that a little bit. And so it's just that there's just a lot to it. And I think I love what Nick is talking about, as far as this being easy for people. That's what we're trying to do for education. We're trying to make this easy for educators to access, to use, to buy them time back, get time back in their life administratively. We're trying to make it something that's really good, and then we're trying to teach students how to use it ethically. And I think that's because it's going to need to be. This is what's going to be important.
We're making templates inside Likely, so we're templatizing something that's very complex and making it super easy. So that's on the Likely.ai side, which I'm the chief marketing officer for that company. That's Greg's brother. Been on the show several times. Has a fantastic product. Great AI database product. My Lead Max product, I'm trying to do that same thing, but for chat, like actual booked appointments for your business, people communicating with your business. How do you train an artificial intelligence just like you would train a salesperson to answer questions? So instead of going through hours and hours of training with a new employee, you want to hire somebody to answer the phones for your company. We're doing that now with a Google Sheet and an actual interface that you can interact with on a daily basis if you want, and make it the best possible experience as possible, which I can show that if you guys actually want to see it. But if not,
well, I mean, I want to jump. I do want to see that, but I want to jump back really quickly. I don't know. Maybe I just tuned out because I've been drinking through a fire hose here, trying to understand all this stuff. Gene, Nick, and Tim seem to be crushing it on this. But Tony asked a really good question. I actually asked it. I thought about it earlier. Did we cover this question? Can chat be trained
yes.
for with misinformation deliberately? So this goes back to Tim, what you just said about ethics, right? Because as soon as when you first started talking, I swear to God, like our brains connected, and I was just like, damn, Tony's right on point. Because what if you went out there and you hired a VA to go out and find and create dirt on your biggest competitors, and then just dump tons of it out onto chat, and I'm talking fuck tons, everything you can make up under God's green earth, and then whenever someone searches or writes or anything else, they can find it. I mean, is that something that you see happening? I mean, because there's going to be some unscrupulous human beings out there who are going to try to fuck with this thing and really turn it into a weapon versus a tool.
Well, my answer immediately to that was it's happening anyway. I mean, that's possible now. It's possible without AI. Is it possible with AI? Yes. But the thing about it is that there's always going to be somebody who always going to be somebody who murders somebody else. It's just wrong. So there's going to have to be
Hey, Gene
I mean,
was acquitted on those charges.
this is going to
Gene was
become
acquitted.
mitigatable at some point. I mean, yeah, it's going
It
to
was the
cause
weekend.
problems.
No kids were at school. Did you ever hear that joke? The guy that got caught peeing on the playground at a kid's school and then got. Yeah, anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Jeez. My God.
Jeez, where did we come up with
Wow.
that? All right. All
Oh,
right,
no.
back to our previously scheduled show.
Yeah.
Sorry, Tim. Our apologies. He has not taken.
We've
his
been
meds
very
today.
serious for a long time on this show.
I
It's
know.
been
Yes, we
minute
have.
50. We haven't really said a joke. Yeah. So
Yeah,
Damn.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, we
I
did.
know.
Okay, so let's talk about some fun things that you can do with chat. Let's say a lot of us are, I am not one of them, but every one of you, everyone else on the show does have little midget humans. Let's how to teach a kid how to do this and how to turn it into something productive and be a positive force in their future lives. Well, how would you train a child or someone who's never seen this before and baby step them into this and teach them the right way to use it for a powerful tool in the good realm, not the bad realm?
Well, I think there's two things. Number one, we're actually they're not little kids; they're adults, and we're really actually talking about this right now. So in grad school, so but you know, there's a way to get information. Just like if I used, I wouldn't have gone to an encyclopedia set back in 1980. Remember having those, and gone down to the local Kinkos. Remember having one of those, and copied 6 pages on different kinds of leaves, and then stapled that and turned it in as my assignment. I couldn't have done that. I mean, I would have had to have taken that, you know, uh, I would have had to have somehow paraphrased that information into my own, and I would have had to then cite my work. So here's the thing, we have paraphrasing AIs, we have all these things that are out there. I think one of the things we have to first of all do, especially in education, is we have to first of all admit that we know we have it and admit that we know what it does. So much of the time we just ignore things and we just hope they go away if they won't. So we have to admit we have to be good at it ourselves. We have to learn how to recognize what's the AI and what's not. I've done enough of this now that when my students, who I'm teaching classes right now, when they turn in papers, I know that it was AI. I can tell. It's not elegant. I can just tell. But it's going to get
Interesting.
more elegant. But the other thing is we're teaching people to cite the AI. And the way we're doing that right now, it's going to change. But the way we're doing it right now is we're asking people that if you use an AI, we're encouraging them to use AI to do outlines, to get ideas, to write out, annotations to certain things or whatever we're going to do, to put all that in an appendix. So when you write a paper, add everything, here's what I generated from Chat AI. Now, I know people can lie. Okay, but at least we're trying. We're trying to tell people, show us what you're doing, show us how you're using it, show us what you used, and then show us what your work was. And I think, can people still train it with that and write a paper? Yes, but people are doing that now. People have been. I mean, I can't tell you how many. I mean, I must get 6 emails a week asking me to be on their team of paper writers because people buy papers. I mean, this has been going on forever, and so it's going to continue. People are going to cheat. Plagiarism is real. We've been fighting it for decades and decades. It's not like it's new. This is the newest way to do it. I think one of the things we have to do is we just have to tell people, look, you know, your work, your voice is what's important. Learning how to write in such a way, publish in such a way that it's your voice is important. And so, how do you do that? How do you get this done? There's a really ChatGPT is a really great way to do this. I'm publishing a book on ChatGPT, AI modeling, chat prompt engineering, and other things for educators. It's coming out in August. I use ChatGPT to generate the outline for the book. Then I use ChatGPT to generate outlines from the outlines. I got it down. I chunked it down to 100 word, 200 word chunks, and then I just wrote the chunks. I wrote them and wrote them and wrote them. I used ChatGPT to do the whole thing, but I just wrote them. I just wrote the chunks, wrote the chunks, wrote the chunks, and then suddenly I have this 100-page book. It took me half the time because I didn't have to do as much work on getting all of the that work of doing that on paper by hand is just laborious. And so I was able to have conversations, generate outlines, get them fixed, generate them again, get them fixed, then take each one of the pieces of the outline, generate outlines. And so then all I did was just take the outlines and start typing what I knew. And so it became my own work. And so you know, like I said, at the end, you know, I'll give credit to Chat AI for helping me create the outlines for the information that I had. But the idea is, I still wrote the piece, and so just as much as I would have, you know, gone to the library and sat in the library and written myself an outline based on the books I pulled out of the whatever, it's the same. You just have to learn how to use it to do Jim Collins in his book Good to Great back in the, what was that, 2002. He said that
Great book,
technology
by the
only
way.
does two things. He said it either accelerates what we already do well, or it amplifies what we do poorly.
Hmm.
And so the truth is, since I already write well, right? I already do this. I'm academic, so I already do this. It just accelerates what I do already.
Hmm.
It just made it easier for me to get to the end product, which was me typing, right? That's what we need to teach children. I think from the very beginning how to do it, and then how they can use these tools to write better papers and to do it faster. They're going to spend more time doing the work that they need to do and less time doing the administrative work. So to me, that's it. You know,
You know, the thing that I'm just thinking about it more and more. I mean, because I have already done it when I was on when we're on the show right now. I asked Chat AI, so you get those letters correct.
I'm giving you a complex now. You're fully.
I
in it.
am. I
Yeah.
totally am. I just step right
it's
into
an
it.
alphabetical order. Does that help?
Oh
GPT.
God, no! I'm just
Does
like,
that help?
so I'll put it backwards.
All right.
I asked it two different questions. I asked it, think as a real estate agent, provide me with a breakdown of the pros and cons of living in Walnut Creek, California. I want to have an upbeat but honest conversation. Let me know if you'd live here with your family. Go over the real estate price points compared to the rest of the Bay Area cities, as well as school ratings along with crime rates. And that's where I kind of started really quickly. Kicked out 5 pros, 4 cons with a summary. And now I'm going to go back and I'm going to keep going through those conversations till I really refine it down and really hone it in and come with that final prompt. And then I'm going to do it for each one of those cities. Then I'm going to create a little packet. I'm going to provide to every home buyer when they come through open houses, and a digital version as a top of the funnel trap for buyers looking in the area on YouTube videos. Download this, guide to the Bay Area, best Bay Area cities and the worst Bay Area cities to live in. Now I can start capturing people's information. I can update the PDF. I can hand it out. It's my stuff because I trained it, right? So I'm not plagiarizing. Is that correct, Tim?
Right. Yep.
And I mean, we're not doing academic level stuff here, but we're building relationships with knowledge, and having a friend help us write this, aka Chat AI, because I'm not a good writer. I really am epically horrible, and so for me, this is an incredible game changer. And I think it's something great for a lot of real estate agents because it takes skill, but with a little bit of knowledge, you'll be able to do a lot more than your competition. But 95 to 98% of the agents aren't going to touch this with a 10-foot pole because they're going to be scared of it like you wouldn't believe, just like anything else that was new. And Gina's been so quiet, it's honestly really bothers me.
Just like AI, I'm in my learning mode. Just consuming. Just consuming. I have
always a witty comeback.
I have some things that I started to think about that I had was, from an educator's perspective, there's some thought processes that I wanted to really dive into, but they didn't really fit. They didn't fit the flow. It doesn't fit the flow. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I was just one of the things that I heard, and I would like Timothy's thought process on it as being in the schools is like over here on the East Coast at the University of Penn. And I couldn't tell you the professor's name, but somebody jumped out ahead of this. And basically what was happening was it was a unique angle on students using ChatGPT and any AI model, right? And so this guy basically said, I'm obviously paraphrasing and I'm sure I'm getting some of this wrong, but here's the idea. I know that as a professor, my students are not dumb. And like Nick said earlier, I would never write a paper. So I know you're going to use it, and I require that you use it when we're in class and when we're doing other things. You should be using it because it's not going to go away, and you should get ahead of it and learn it, right? However, when we get to the point where we're doing grading work like tests and finals, we're going to do this in an open conversation forum. So you can write papers through ChatGPT and do your homework through ChatGPT all you want, but at the end of it, I'm going to know if you know the material or not because we're going to have an open conversation. And so, like, Very interesting. And I thought, to
Hmm.
me, that I don't know who that was. And if anybody's listening to this and knows who that is, I'd love to talk to this guy. And
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it could be a female. They're a lot more in tune with the stuff than we are. So it's probably most likely a female. But I would love to get behind that, because I think the reality of it is this. I mean, it's not going away, and it's going to be used for things more maniacal and demonizing them than writing a paper, right? But I like the angle of, hey, this is part of life now, so let's figure out how to use it properly. And I want to get Timothy's thoughts on that, the concept of, no, definitely use it for what we need it for, but I'm going to change the way that we teach and we test, in that now we're going to talk about it. So you can write all the papers you want on George Washington and all the first 5 presidents, but at the end of it, when I start talking to you in a conversational tone over a beer, I'm going to know if you wrote those papers yourself or not, right?
Yeah, now for your class, you have to have an exit interview.
Right.
Right?
Right. And for me, I thought that was brilliant. I would have failed miserably. Don't get me wrong. Right. But Timothy, your thoughts on what I just laid out.
Yeah.
For you.
Well, I think what you're bringing up is super interesting. One of the things I'm asking our faculty constantly is to reevaluate their assessments, to reevaluate the way that they're assessing their students. So just if I can just really fast. So really, there's only 3 parts to education. Education is not that complicated. There's an aggregation of information. There's the dissemination and analyzation of that information, and then there's how we communicate that information back out. That's what literacy is. That's all there is to it. So, but the thing about it is that our assessments, right? So when we get into education, we say, well, there's a set of learning objectives. What do we want them to be able to do? How are we going to get them to be able to do that? And then how are we going to test that they did it? Or they can do it. That's really it. So the assessment piece, I asked this famous question. I think probably they're going to write it on my tombstone. But what is the best way to assess whether you can make a peanut butter sandwich? It's not necessarily to write an essay, which is typically what we've always done in education. We've always said, all right, I'm going to tell you everything about writing a peanut butter sandwich, about making a peanut butter sandwich, and now I'm going to have you write an essay, because that just is what we do. Well, maybe the best way to test whether or not you know how to make a peanut butter sandwich is have you make a film making a peanut butter sandwich and explaining it. So what we're doing, to your point, what we're seeing a lot of our faculty do, and what we're trying to get them to do, is get away from the rote essay when it's not necessary. Now, sometimes it is necessary. So I'm not saying it's not always necessary, but can they make an infographic? Can they make a video? Can they do a podcast episode? Can they do something that now, if they use ChatGPT, I don't care, because now they're going to have to produce something. So, and then we're trying to show them how to write ChatGPT into the instructions. Use ChatGPT, generate this outline, put it in the index, do this, then make this infographic or make this video, show this. We're trying to say, reevaluate your assessments. Not everything has to be an essay. And if it does have to be an essay, then to your point, Gene, which I think is brilliant that they're doing that at Penn. I think that's great. We're telling the same thing. Then maybe you need to work into some level of even online. Maybe we need to have them present something at the end. Then, if you're going to have them write an essay, then have them do a video presenting the work of their essay, because you're going to know if they know what they're talking about or not. If they literally read their essay, they're not going to get a very good answer. We're looking for you to present to us the information you know. However you got there is up to you. And
that's
then
great. That's great for an extrovert. But now, what about all the kids that are going to have a panic attack because they have to have a conversation with somebody to pass a class?
Get over it.
Well, you know what though? I am not an extrovert. I know that doesn't. I know all of you. This is all an act. I do this to because I have to get out of my hole once in a while to talk to people. But I'm very much an introvert. I do not like talking in front of people very much. I do it a lot, but I don't. It's not my favorite thing. And you could do it. I think part of the process is facilitating learning, right? Which is as much a part of being a teacher as grading papers. Facilitating learning is partly helping people get somewhere that they didn't think they could be. If you know that somebody is really having a hard time, I'm not expecting them to be, a polished presenter, but
Yeah,
I am expecting them to be able to produce something that
different than a
doesn't.
paper that
And you
was
know what?
written by GPT.
And the other
Yeah.
thing too, I think what's really important is we have to be able to give students options. So if you don't want to have your face on camera, I get that. I have a lot of students that don't want to put their face on camera, but they don't mind making a podcast episode. And so, so they don't mind speaking into something. They don't
Yeah.
mind, or they don't mind putting a voiceover over slides, or they don't like, they don't mind doing those kinds of things. And so, you know what? Let's, I say, take away the boundaries that people that are used for people to put up walls not to do things, and give them options. And I did this about a year ago. I started giving options for my courses online. You can do a paper, like this particular assignment. You can do a paper, or you can do a video, or you can do an infographic. You can do just pick one. Just do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
And amazingly, people don't pick papers. Over and over again, they don't pick papers. They pick
I would
other
do a
things. They
video
pick
all day.
creative things.
I
Yeah,
would do a
of
video
course.
without blinking.
Right. So I think it's just understanding that academics doesn't have to always be papers. Sometimes it does. So I'm not. Please don't send me hate mail. I know. I read 100 pages a week of papers. I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm just saying I don't think they're always necessary. I think we might be able to get away with doing some other things. So,
I'm not gonna lie
and
to
I
you.
love that idea. I love that idea of have a conversation with somebody at the end, make them present something, do something that shows that they know what they're doing.
Listen, I guarantee that if I was in college and then my professor said to me, look, you can use ChatGPT all you want. And for your final exam, you and I are going to meet over beers and we're going to have a conversation about that subject. I would have had a perfect attendance. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
and
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you guys something. You guys know what a visionary I am, right? You just say yes, shake your head,
Yes.
yes.
Yes. For sure.
Oh,
If you do,
absolutely. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I want to tell you something. So back in senior year of high school, I had the keys to some of the rooms in the school that I probably shouldn't have had the keys to. And so I had access to certain answer keys, right? And
Not shocking in
not
the
right.
least.
And what I should say is that what I would do is I would also then get the juniors, and I hope you can't get arrested for this. I would also then get the juniors answer keys for summer work. And I would take those junior keys and exchange them, trade them to my sister and my now wife, who we weren't going out back then. I would trade them those keys in exchange for them doing my work for me over the summer. And
Yeah.
so they were in essence, my chat GPTs when I was 17. So I was ahead of this game. I've been doing this for a long time.
That's great
what I'm saying.
insight. I love the insight.
Great insight.
Yeah.
So, Gene, what you're saying is that when you first met your wife, you were hustling her?
No, believe it or not, actually, when I was doing
Yeah.
that, I
Well,
had
she was
already
hustling
dated-
you.
Yeah, she was probably hustling me. Yeah, let's put it out there. Yep,
Yeah.
that's probably right.
He didn't say what services were performed by the wife back then.
Whoa, wait a minute.
That was,
No, I did.
let's-
She
let's-
did
let's be
she did my homework over the summer.
yeah.
Is that what us kids called it back then?
Yeah.
Tim, I know you are a busy man. We could sit here and chat with you and pick your brain until the cows come home and then do it over dinner eating steaks. But we got some stuff to do, and I know you got a lot of stuff to do and keep creating amazing content. Now, when we first started the show, I told you that everyone they have a book that you have a book coming out. You alluded to it throughout the conversation. So I want you to go over that. Then I also want to talk about what we told everybody to wait to the end, and that is the prompt that you built specifically for this show. Never seen anywhere else. Never. Just seen on Real Estate Uncensored. Tim is sweating. He's nervous, ladies and gentlemen. This is so big. It's going to take, the New York Times is going to be calling him off the hook. It's going to be hard to ever get a hold of him, but he's here now. So hang on to your hats. Here's the prompt.
Yeah. So I do have a book coming out in August. So I'll keep in touch with all of you and let you know when it actually it's going to be ebook form as well as actual book form. Hard copy too. So that'll be coming out. We're just finishing up, so it should be good. But to Tony out there, full of citations, buddy, full of citations. Everything is cited. So it's good. It's academic. It's a little bit complicated, but I think it'll be good, especially if you're an educator out there. This is where we're at, and I think I would encourage you to read it. I'm trying to price it in a way that every educator who isn't making very much money can afford it. So we're going to do it that way. I did write two prompt chains for you, and I'll send them to give them to Greg so he can post along links to them. and one prompt. These are very simple, so I feel kind of like I'm giving you the kindergarten version of what Nick was talking about at Lively there. I mean, I think I really want you to go check that out. I think that's really important because those are very, very specific, and these really are not. These are just kind of, I wanted you to get a sense of what prompt engineering and prompt chaining looks like. And I had no idea that we were going to be talking about lively.ai. So I, you know, these are very simple, but they will produce, or likely.ai. They will produce output for you, and you can start to see how it works. And so if you do nothing but just use it to learn how the AI works and how you can talk to it, that's good. I've got one that'll produce some social media posts for you. I've got some others that'll produce what I think is one of the more powerful ways to use it, which is it'll give you a blog like series. It'll actually do a blog series for you, and then and then you can actually pull the pieces out of the blog series, and it'll help you to compose blog posts. It kind of has a way for you to it's just a way for you to learn how to use prompt engineering and chaining to do that. But then again, since they're working on since Nick and those folks are working on things that are very specific to your industry, I would really highlight that, because I think that's not something I'm necessarily working on. I'm really working on things that are more education prone. But
Mhm.
I'm glad to give them away to you so that you can learn how to use the AI and kind of start to see how how the guts work and how it goes together. So I'll send those links to Greg, and you
Sure.
know, and of course reach out to me if I can be of any help. I always offer, every time I'm on this show, I always offer that anytime if somebody wants to reach out to me and spend 30 minutes with me, I always am willing to spend 30 minutes with anybody to talk about whatever you'd like to talk about, whether it's social media analysis or whether it's AI and how you're using it, or how you're educating your folks internally, or whatever I can do to help. I'll send that as well, and I have a link that you can go to and get on my calendar. So I'm always willing to talk to anybody if I can be helpful and valuable. I want to be helpful. So
Perfect. And guys, with everything that Tim just said, we're going to put that in our newsletter. We'll also put all of that in our YouTube notes in this. So you guys, you can keep your eyes open for when this episode comes out on our newsletter via email. If you're not a part of that, make sure you get signed up. And then also it will be in the YouTube notes. So it will all be there for you no matter where you are listening or watching. And I'll also see if I can go back and post it back into the Facebook chat log here. So you guys will be covered. Go make sure you go take a look at it, and then I'll make sure that our team uploads all this stuff for the podcast notes on all your podcast streaming services. So you're taken care of there. Tim, quickly, where can they email you to book their time with you?
you know what? I have a link. It's probably the best way is to use if I could send you a link, it goes right to my calendar, which is
Sure.
being updated by an AI every minute. So
Naturally.
I use a certain link, so I'll send it to you, and then people can just click on it, and it goes to my calendar, and book yourself a 30-minute time anytime.
All right, there it is. That will also be in all of our show notes, ladies and gentlemen. Gene Volpe, the Evil Bald Ninja, you gave a great tutorial there. Wonderful insight throughout the show. Very happy that you were here. Get us a breakdown on what your takeaways are from the show.
Me?
Yes, you.
No, I got nothing. I wasn't listening for the first 45 minutes.
Fucktard.
No, I'm kidding.
Okay.
I came strong at the end. No, nothing.
You did.
This is going. It's not going away. It's not going away. I have a daughter that's going to be a freshman in college. I have another daughter that's going to be a sophomore in high school. So I'm interested. I was super interested to hear Timothy's take on it. I have the luxury of being able to tap into Nick Sakis all the time, and this guy's all over.
No kidding.
What's that?
I said no kidding. I do the same thing.
Yeah, right. I mean, listen, he's always texting me at night, and I joke with people. I go, Nick's like the guy that's leading the charge in my circle on AI, and he'll text me at like 10:30 at night, like, bro, you got to check this out. I'm like, Nick, I can't go down this rabbit hole. He's like, you live for the rabbit holes. I'm like, yeah, you're right. I'll get back to you in a minute. But it's fun.
That is actual conversation dialogue. You're right.
100%. I don't lie, man. I don't lie.
Awesome.
Yeah. So no, I enjoy it. And I keep my eye on it. I'm looking. While we were doing this episode, I was writing some cybersecurity insurance articles through Byword AI, like different things that we're messing with. I'm going to plug it into my WordPress. We're going to lead gen. There's going to be Facebook ads attached to it. Like there's stuff going on from a marketing perspective that we can use, right? There's stuff going on from an education perspective that your kids will use. There's stuff going on from a cooking perspective that you'll be able to pull recipes from Lydia and her son, out of some of the best Italian restaurants. And like, it's not going away. I mean, just get ahead of it. It's like we talked about with video in 2009, right? It's not going away. Learn how to record yourself, learn how to do quick edits. Now we move to 9x16 formats, right? Learn it, get on it, start doing it, do it now.
Yeah, I think Gene, you did a very good sum up there. Do it and do it now, because a lot of folks are going to sit on the fence like, I'll do it tomorrow, or I'll do it when the time is right, or I'll do it when it's needed. Look, guys, it's needed now. The time is now. I'm mark my words. It is 6/14/2023. If you wait 6 months or a year on this, mark my words, you will be left in the dust. You will be an ancient dinosaur if you do not embrace this and move forward on it. Because the younger generation, I keep saying this, so do Nick, so does Gene. If you don't get on board with the newest cutting edge stuff, the younger generation will obliterate you. You will be a fucking fart in the wind in business. You could be better, but they're going to be better marketers, which means they're going to get more mind share, more everything else, so that when it comes time to make a decision, they're going to go to Gene Volpe versus Greg McDaniel, because Gene was on the AI train, the cutting edge. You don't want someone wearing the 1970s suit saying this is the brand new cool fashion. You want someone on the cover of Vogue going, this is what's going to be coming in the future. Be on the cover of Vogue when it comes to real estate marketing, guys. Stop being. I'm not going to make that joke again. Nick Sakis, takeaways. You brought some hammer, bro. You brought some heat. So break it down for us real quick.
All I heard was don't be a fart in the wind. That's what I'm going to remember. Right?
God, you're just on hashtag Hate Greg Day. Okay.
Are we?
Cool.
Is this a bow on the show, or is this just a recap?
Recap on your point, and then we're out of here.
So first of all, go to likely.ai/playbooks if you want an easy button for prompting. Second tip for prompting: talk to GPT as if you were talking to a person. Not because, like Timothy said, it's not actually fact gathering and thinking and doing all these things. It's probability of the next word. But if you talk to it as if you're talking to a person, you are more likely to have a better prompt or series of prompts because you're asking it, what do you need? That's another tip. Instead of just being stuck and stale and like, I don't know what to ask GPT to tell you what to say to it for the best response. Hey, I need to write a blog article, good morning. It's going to say, good morning. How are you? What can I help you with today? And you say, I need to write a blog article, but I'm not actually sure how to ask you what to write. Sure. What's the topic? And you'll start having a conversation with it. And then you're basically giving it a series of prompts to have. So treat GPT, if you're going to OpenAI like the regular thing, treat it like a conversation. If you want the cheat code, go to likely.ai/playbooks. If you want to have the best artificial intelligence chatbot that's on the market right now, bar none, go to tryleadmax.com or set up a call with me. Go to nicksacks.com. Either way, you're going to book an appointment with me, and I'll get you set up with a trained assistant that will answer questions on your behalf as if it's a trained employee with real responses dedicated to your business, because we've built on top of GPT real responses and a trained agent to qualify leads and booked appointments. Ask Gene, we booked appointment for his RoofMax business right now with GPT. I'm doing it for other real estate agents, so it's working. It's amazing.
Pladow.
And
Okay.
so last thing, sorry, I don't want to forget about this because Gene served it up to me. He mentioned the founding fathers earlier, and I would like to present to everybody.
Yes.
If you're listening to this,
do it,
and you are on Facebook or you are on LinkedIn or you are listening, and you have not been to the YouTube channel recently, I present to you our brand new channel banner. For those of you who are not looking or can see this, we consider ourselves the founding fathers of real estate podcasting. So there's a picture of Mount Rushmore with Mr. Greg McDaniel, Mr. Gene Volpe, and Mr. Nick Sakis' face on the rocks. It's some of my best work, I think.
I think it is.
I posted it yesterday. I love it. I would like everybody to go check it out and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already subscribed.
Dude, Alyssa Glutz, I sent that over to her. She saw it. She's been on the show before, and she said, the only thing you need up there is a woman. I'm like, damn, the chick is not wrong. We do need a consistent female voice, and I think Alyssa's in the running for that one. So you guys.
So Abraham Lincoln is right behind this Real Estate Uncensored logo. So maybe if we did add a female, we could put her where Abraham Lincoln's supposed to be.
We'll put her face. We'll put a face right up there of our next lady co-host.
That's right.
All right, guys. Holy shit, that was a lot of information. Go back and watch this all again. Again, all the stuff that Tim has promised. His information about his book is going to be there. We're going to be his prompts. The link to his prompts are going to be there. A link to all of his booking site will be there as well. So go and take advantage. Go have a conversation with Tim. He's incredibly knowledgeable, very kind. He's so intelligent, it hurts, but he's very humble about it, and he will help you, guide you through your next steps. Please be considerate of his time and only take 30 minutes. And so we've gone for an hour and 20 minutes on this show. Imagine we can do one-on-one. So, Tim, a deep thanks to you for all of your knowledge and your time here. It is invaluable, and you are a force to be reckoned with. And we are going to be coming back to you with more updates as chat goes on and other AIs. And if we can help and serve you, or any of our team here can help or serve you, our doors and lines are always open to you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Our pleasure. Now, quickly, color for the bow on the show. Nick, color.
I'm going beige, like our Mount Rushmore rocks.
All right, beige. Gene.
Hot pink.
Hot pink. And then, of course, our guest of honor, Mr. Tim. Color for the bow on the show, please.
Azure.
The fuck is Azure?
Nice.
Blue.
Why don't we just say blue? Okay, Azure.
Wait, that's
It's an
Azul.
Italian-
That's Spanish. Not Azure. Is Azure blue?
I thought Azure was blue.
Oh, maybe it is. I'm thinking Azul is blue too in Spanish, right?
Yeah.
Okay, we're not going to go down this splitting hairs.
How about just blue?
I did a whole series of
meaning.
making Greg name species of wood. I think I need to bring that back.
All right, guys, this has been a wonderful episode. We thank you for watching. I'm going to shut Nick up now because he just likes to make fun of me today. Thanks for watching. We cannot do this show without you. Tim, you're amazing. Gene, you're a legend. Nick, you're being a dick today, but I still love you. Come back for next week for our next show, guys. Until then, watch, listen, share, subscribe, follow, stalk, and be our friends. Until next time, peace out, ninjas. We go.